We're back mixing art with AI, and I'm going to show you how you can manipulate your own face or anyone else's using AI really easily online to create beautiful and horrifying results. Now I'm using artbreeder.com, which used to be called gambreeder.com, but it's had some major updates since my last video. Now the biggest update is being able to create portraits, creating new faces, blending faces, and uploading your own faces to be manipulated. Artbreeder uses a type of AI called a GAN, a general adversarial network, which is a machine learning system. Now there are 6 categories, 6 GANs you can use to create on Artbreeder. There's general, which can create really chaotic images of absolutely anything. Portraits, which creates photographic and painted images of humans. Characters, which creates video game sort of concept art looking images. Album art, which creates these types of images that have interesting text placement and compositions. Landscapes, which creates these sometimes realistic, sometimes fantasy looking images of landscapes. And anime portraits as well. Coincidentally, these happen to be the 6 pillars of any art degree. So let's select portraits and choose upload. Now here you can select and upload any image, and you can upload up to 10 images before you need to upgrade to a paid plan, which I've done. Now you can do all the warping I'm going to show you in this video on a free plan. You're just limited by the amount of images you can upload and how many high quality images you can save. And the uploading process can take quite a long time. You can see we're in a queue at position 65 here, and the processing takes about an hour. So plan accordingly. Front facing photos tend to work best, and anything you upload will be private unless you choose to share it and make it public. So let's click on this image of Elon Musk that we've uploaded and get started. So this brings up this view, and on the left we have the image that we uploaded, and on the right are that image's children. So what Artbreeder has done is selected a bunch of features or traits of the image that we've uploaded, which it calls the genes of the image, and has adjusted them randomly to create these similar looking images on the right, which are children of this left image. Now we can adjust on the slider how similar and how different we want the children to be. So at the moment, they're right in the middle, and we can see a fair bit of resemblance in a lot of the images, certainly in these 2 up here. But if we push this slide to the left, they're going to get more similar. Here they're looking much closer to Elon. This one looks a fair bit painterly, and this one looks like a pretty realistic female version of him. And if we go further to the left, they get more similar, and on the very left, they look identical. Now let's push it a bit further to the right, and we're going to get some really different results. Still, there's some slight resemblance in these bottom 2 ones, but this one on the left is really different, and let's push it all the way different and see how far they can go. Now these are really wild. We can barely see any information from this image on the left. About 1/3 from the left is where I think we get the most interesting results. We get some quite realistic kind of gender swaps, and these all look like real people that could maybe be close relatives of our source image. And I find it fascinating how such small details can make one face look so much more feminine or masculine, or change their complete character. Now we also have an option up here to crossbreed your image, and here we select an image and it will blend it with our source image. So when we choose select an image, we have a few options here. At the top we can enter an Artbreeder URL, so if you wanted to blend it with the Elon Musk image, you copy this URL and paste it in here. We've also got random down here, so these are random images that other users have created. You can find some really interesting ones in here and probably recognize a few celebrities that people have uploaded as well. You can also search, and let's enter the name Bruce, and here we get some Bruce Lee, Bruce Willis, Bruce Campbell, and Bruce Mathers for some reason. And then we've also got trending portraits, and these tend to mostly look like digital art of young women. And then you've also got the option for ones that you've starred, you favorited, and ones that you've created as well. So let's select this old-fashioned portrait of this woman here. So now it gives us this view with the result on the left and our 2 inputs on the right, and these sliders for how much it is preferencing each image. Right now it's in the middle for both, and we get a really convincing image of a halfway point between the 2. And if we push the face slider to the left, it'll start to look more like Elon. Let's go a bit further. And if we push it to the right, it'll look more like this lady here. And these images are generating really fast. It takes only a second for these to load after clicking from the slider. Let's put the face back in the middle and then play with the style slider. The style slider is the influence for everything in the image that isn't the facial proportions. So the color, the sharpness, the lighting. So if we slide that to the left, we get a bit more of a realistic photographic lighting. And if we slide it to the right, it's going to look a lot more softer and a lot more airbrushed and take a lot more color from this image. So if we put the Elon all the way on the left and this portrait all the way on the right, we get a soft looking portrait of a man. And if we slide those the other way, we get a more photographic looking version of this portrait with some of Elon's colors. Let's reset that, and let's select another image and choose this really painterly portrait here. And he can get some really cool results. And this looks to me like a unique painting, but this doesn't exist. It's just a mixture of these 2 face shapes and these 2 styles. So when we push the style all the way up and the face all the way to Elon, we get a pretty interesting result. It doesn't look too much like Elon, but it looks like a painting you might see in an art gallery. And of course, we can alter the style and the amount of face influence. to change it to look a bit more realistic. And let's see what happens when we push the face all the way to this portrait and then the slider all the way to the left. Now here we get some fun results, which is messed up, and that's because the facial information of this portrait on the right isn't as clear. It doesn't really know exactly where to draw the eyelids, the nose exactly, but it does a pretty good job considering this nose is only a few strokes of different paint. It builds a pretty realistic one. And of course, this is great for seeing what celebrities' children would look like, and you can have lots of fun with this. Now, if you want to save an image, you can click on it, right click and save that image as, or you can select this down here, which will put this in your downloads page and it'll let you know how many you have left remaining. Well, let's go to reset and choose the last category here, edit genes, where we can have some real fun. And here we get a better sense of what's happening under the hood of this software. We've got all of these properties here, all of the genes of this face, and we can manipulate each one. So on the top left here, we've got the face width. So if we drag that to the right, the face gets wider. And here it doesn't look too bad, but when we push it all the way to the right, we get some pretty wild results and it starts to look very James Corden-esque. And if we push it to the left, it gets narrower and more feminine as well. And I think that must be because the majority of images that this GAN was trained on, the narrower faces would have been more likely to be women. So the further we get away from the center of these sliders, the more dissimilar it's going to look from our source image because it's using more influence from other photos of other people. We can do the same with the height, make him taller and shorter. The yaw and pitch will change the angle that the face is looking at, and you can reset any of these by clicking the X. The concept art slider will make this look more like a painting, or at least more like DeviantArt at the very least. But let's see what happens when we make it look less like concept art and push it to the left. Here we get some horrifying results. I guess this is what it thinks more like a human looks like and less like an artwork. And of course we can combine all these as well. So we can make him look a bit more arty, but with a wider face and facing a different angle. So it can be really fun to combine these. And if we click reset down the bottom, it resets all of them. Now, these race ones are really interesting as well. They kind of do exactly what you'd expect. If we push the East Asian one to the right, the image is going to take more influence from the East Asian photos in the dataset. But if we push it to the left, it's going to take away the values that it sort of has tagged as East Asian. So we get an image that looks like this, which I suppose doesn't look East Asian at all, but looks, more like the devil. And when we make our image more white, it tends to get very ginger very quickly, and the black slider works the same. Age will make him older or younger. Older doesn't look too bad, but when you get younger, it tends to get quite a bit more horrifying when we get to the very bottom here. The gender one is really fun, and you don't need to go very far at all to the left to get more feminine qualities, and it starts to look like a completely different person. And then on the far left, it just starts to look like some anime art. But on the far right, we can see what a more male Musk would look like. And then the farther we go, the more male it looks. And this is in fact the ideal male body. Brightness and sharpness more affect the quality of the image. There's a few traits like smile, open mouth, and open eyes, which are really good because they kind of just change the expression of the image. So we can turn his smile down, which makes him look very annoyed, and then close his eyes, and then see if we can open his mouth. Yeah, it looks like exactly what we did. It doesn't look much like Elon Musk now, but it looks like it could be a real person. We can also add eyeglasses. This one's eyeglasses is a bit more difficult because it's got a lot of reflections and things to deal with under there. Let's reset that. And we can increase the blue, and it's got some colors over here, and that adds blue in a really realistic way. I was just expecting it to adjust the tint or temperature of the image, which it is doing that, but it's editing in a background pretty seamlessly. And then on the bottom right, we've got Chaos, which is my favorite name for any of these sliders because it's so ominous. And if we slide that over, we get this result. I mean, just get Elon in this expression. Let's push that all the way and then turn down the brightness to try to counteract all this. And we again get a pretty chaotic result. So let's play around with these and see what fun creations we can create. Here's one that looks pretty wild. I've increased the eyes open, makeup, white, black, sharpness, and then decreased the chaos because it was just too chaotic with the chaos up any further. And this just looks like nothing at all. Here's what an Elon might look like with makeup in the 80s. And with the whiteness setting up all the way and the makeup down pretty low, it starts to look quite a bit like a corpse, like a Frankenstein. With just a few subtle changes, we can make him look like an Asian lady or some sleek elf concept art here. Now I'm blown away by how powerful this is, all in browser and for free. The most interesting aspect of this software to me is how it transfers artistic styles onto photographs. Now there's lots of style transfer software out there which will put a painting style onto a photo, and as of now, early 2020, they really aren't great. They're really unpredictable. They're not much more predictable here, but the results are really striking. There's no way that you'd convince someone that this is a painting of Elon Musk, but you could convince them that it was something you painted yourself. It looks certainly derivative of this image on the right, but it looks unique to it. And you can see that with lots of different ones. This looks similar to these two images, but it looks like an original piece of artwork regardless. And with just a few clicks, we can generate different variations of it and create new ones. This is really fascinating to me coming from an art background, and I want to make videos like this mainly to show the artists that this is what's coming. Artificial intelligence, I think, will affect all creative industries significantly in the next 10 years. We should be prepared for what's coming and not necessarily how to avoid it, because I think it's unavoidable. How we should adapt to it, I think, is more important. And I don't really have answers for how we should do that at the moment, but I think we should be aware that a sort of unique style will be able to be copied by machines effortlessly in a few years. And I hope as artists we can find a way to use these technologies to improve our art and advance the mediums, rather than just get swallowed up by it. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to create these morphing animations really quickly and easily using Artbreeder as well. So please consider subscribing to find out more about art, AI, and animation.